They are just 6 and 4 years old.
Whispered questions echoed behind palace gates as a new chapter in history quietly unfolded. For over 3 decades, the British monarchy has navigated the delicate balance between ancient ceremony and a rapidly evolving, media-driven world. Each generation has carried the weight of tradition, but only a few have done so under the relentless scrutiny of the digital era. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle welcomed their first child, Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, in the spring of 2019, followed by their daughter Lilibet Diana in the summer of 2021, the royal family was not simply announcing new descendants. They were stepping into uncharted territory, where lineage, identity, and public expectation intersected with unprecedented decisions about privacy. Inside the palace walls, officials keenly understood the magnitude of these changes. The magnitude of the moment was striking. Typically, the birth of a senior royal unfolds with layers of ceremonial precision. Announcements are promptly issued to the press, lineage records are documented, titles confirmed, christenings photographed, and the child integrated into public life as a symbol of continuity. This time, however, the script looked very different. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex had already demonstrated a desire to redefine how royals engage with the media. Their children were introduced not through staged hospital steps or formal photographs, but via carefully controlled releases, selective images, and limited access decisions guided by the parents rather than palace media teams. A subtle but significant shift was underway, observed by officials with cautious restraint. Before public speculation could take hold, a fundamental question arose. How should a monarchy rooted in inheritance and public duty define children born into its lineage, but raised outside the traditional court environment and away from the United Kingdom? Archie and Lilibet faced an unpredictable royal future. By early 2020, their parents had stepped back from senior royal duties, first proposing a hybrid role and ultimately relocating permanently to California. In response, the palace adjusted its communications to reflect that Harry and Meghan would operate independently from the institution. For a monarchy accustomed to shaping a child's public identity from birth, this shift was seismic. Yet rather than issuing bold statements, the palace opted for restraint, limiting official communications to birth confirmations, formal titles at christenings, and the children's legal inclusion in the line of succession. Beyond that, the palace retreated from narrative control. This approach, shaped through private council meetings and guided by senior advisors, reflected caution rather than indifference. The institution is acutely aware that the precedents set today can become policy tomorrow. If children raised outside royal life are granted symbolic prominence, future generations might demand similar arrangements. If they are excluded, the monarchy risks public backlash and accusations of erasure. In this context, silence became a form of diplomacy. Yet silence in public life is rarely seen as neutral. Commentators quickly filled the void with theories ranging from constitutional debate to speculative gossip. Some argued that Archie and Lilibet were deliberately distanced from royal identity because of their parents' independence, while others suggested the monarchy had limited authority to define a role for children not participating in institutional duties. Scholars questioned how titles rooted in centuries-old letters patent applied to children living abroad, while internet commentators, less constrained by nuance, propagated conspiracies that spread across platforms faster than official clarifications could keep up. Behind closed doors, palace staff monitored every development with vigilance. Palace officials navigated these narratives not to control public reaction, but out of concern that misinformation could permanently shape perception. One senior aide, speaking off the record to royal correspondents, described the internal tension as a delicate balance between protecting the children and preserving institutional clarity. The monarchy recognized that Archie and Lilibet would grow up with a global identity shaped by both American culture and British heritage. The question was not whether they were royal by blood. That was indisputable. But how to acknowledge their lineage without pulling them into ceremonial life they had no opportunity to consent to. Unlike heirs raised within palace corridors, their early years unfolded in private homes, protected by security, yet free from royal protocol. They traveled without official engagements, celebrated birthdays without public appearances, and grew up alongside extended family outside the constraints of aristocratic tradition. Their childhood was not staged for national continuity. It was shaped by parental protection. Still, history has shown the monarchy that privacy can be misread as secrecy, especially when applied selectively. Past generations faced criticism when withholding personal details, whether to shield young heirs or avoid political controversy. The palace understood that without eventual clarification, the narrative could drift from truth into myth. Emotion played a central role in these deliberations. Though the monarchy is often portrayed as unfeeling, guided solely by protocol, internal discussions about Archie and Lilibet were deeply human. Many officials remembered the pressures placed on young royals, the relentless tabloid scrutiny of the 1990s, and the collapse of boundaries between public duty and personal life. Particularly for Harry, whose childhood had been marked by grief under constant public surveillance. This awareness fostered empathy in the decision to step back. Senior palace figures recognized that identity is more than a title or surname. It encompasses experience, upbringing, and personal choices that these children had yet to make. As a result, the palace adopted an unprecedented stance. There would be no public narrative until the children themselves had the agency to shape it. This position was not rooted in secrecy, but in protection. Yet the world rarely rewards restraint, and as the years passed, speculation and scrutiny inevitably continued. Questions mounted. Why had there been no official christening photographs sanctioned by the palace? Why were titles not applied uniformly? Why did public records emerge slowly, and without ceremony? The silence that once served as protection began to feel like an unresolved mystery, and mystery invites interpretation. The setup was complete. The world was waiting for answers, and the palace, still silent, waited even longer. Titles in the British monarchy are not merely honorifics. They are instruments of constitutional definition, signaling rank, lineage, and sometimes duty. For centuries, they have followed rules established by the monarchy, reinforced by Acts of Parliament, and guided by letters patent issued by reigning sovereigns. To understand why Archie and Lilibet's titles drew such heightened attention, one must look back to 1917, when King George V issued the foundational declaration determining who would be styled prince or princess. According to this decree, only the children of a sovereign, the grandchildren in the male line of a sovereign, and the eldest son of the Prince of Wales automatically received such styles. Under Queen Elizabeth II, Archie and Lilibet did not initially qualify, as they were great-grandchildren rather than grandchildren. Their cousin, Prince George, received his title from birth due to a special override issued before his arrival, extending princely status to all children of the eldest son of the Prince of Wales. No such modification was granted for Harry's children. Yet the mechanics of lineage are not frozen in childhood. Once King Charles III. When King Charles III ascended the throne, Archie and Lilibet became grandchildren of the reigning monarch, and were therefore entitled to princely styling by law. While entitlement is automatic under the framework, usage is a separate matter, rooted in family decision and palace confirmation. What sparked public debate was not the legal entitlement itself, but the silence surrounding it. 4 months after the accession, the official royal family website continued to list the children as Master Archie and Miss Lilibet, creating a vacuum that commentators quickly filled with speculation. Some argued that the palace was withholding the titles to signal distance, while others insisted that the Sussexes were delaying acceptance to emphasize independence. In reality, palace sources later clarified that digital records were updated only after formal confirmation from the Sussex household regarding preferred usage. The titles appeared not as a symbol of new responsibility, but as an administrative adjustment reflecting existing law. Despite this legal clarity, the shift represented a break from recognizable tradition. Historically, princely titles are accompanied by ceremonial declarations, official portraits, and public acknowledgement from palace press offices. When Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis received their titles, the public learned through formal statements and coordinated imagery. Archie and Lilibet experienced a quieter trajectory. Their status changed without royal photographs taken on palace grounds, without balcony appearances at national events, and without church services broadcast globally. The monarchy did not stage their titles as milestones in the narrative of royal continuity. It permitted recognition while withholding spectacle. This subtle approach signaled a philosophical shift. The modern monarchy is navigating how to balance inherited structures with personal autonomy. Titles traditionally implied a path toward public service, suggesting participation in state functions, ceremonial representation, and lifelong obligations linked to the institution. Archie and Lilibet do not currently live within the traditional framework of royal duty. Residing in California, they engage in private activities, and are raised as private citizens, outside royal protocol. For them, titles do not signal obligation, they signify lineage. That distinction carries profound implications. If titles no longer guarantee participation in the monarchy, the institution must reconsider the role of lineage itself. Is a prince a symbol of future governance, or merely a marker of ancestry? If a child with a title never performs public service, does the title serve heritage or public expectation? These questions have become the focus of scholarly debate rather than palace proclamations. Some constitutional historians warn that maintaining titles without duty risks diluting their significance, while others suggest that this evolution could modernize the monarchy by separating personal identity from state obligation, allowing descendants to retain heritage without compulsory public life. Within the palace, discussions were more pragmatic. Officials recognized that the monarchy's core function depends on a carefully chosen circle of working members, centered on the line of succession. A smaller, streamlined royal team is easier to justify to taxpayers and aligns with King Charles III's long-standing vision. Supporting a large extended network of titled individuals who do not participate in royal duties is neither financially nor politically sustainable. Recognizing Archie and Lilibet formally, without incorporating them into the operational structure, serves this strategy. They exist in the lineage, but remain outside active duty and expenditure. Public reaction to these developments was emotionally charged. For supporters of Harry and Meghan, the confirmation of titles validated their